Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Glad you're along for the ride today. Got a good show. It's Tuesday. That always means good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. Second portion of the show, we're going to have Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com talk a little Gator basketball, recap the Kentucky loss. Tonight they play the Ole Miss Rebels in the Exact Tech Arena. And then this weekend, play Mississippi State. So first, let's go ahead, and I'm sure a lot of people are sleepy this morning. They stayed up and watched the game last night. Good morning, Buddy Martin. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm among them. Yeah, that's late for me, but I got to tell you, I had to turn it off in the fourth quarter. I couldn't believe I was turning off the national championship game. I kind of started feeling sorry for Ohio State.
Well, I didn't feel sorry for him, but I'm like you. When it was, I guess it was about 9 minutes to go. I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer, so I shut it down.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that before we jump into Gator football and Gator basketball. Buddy, I've seen a lot of football, and I thought last year we saw the best college offense I've ever seen, but I'm changing my tune. Alabama 2020, I guess you would call that team. That's the best and the most complete college offense I've ever seen. Had some tremendous players, talent. But I'll tell you what, Steve Sarkisian, if that joker goes to Texas and lets somebody else call plays, I'm going to lose it, because that guy can dial them up, and he out-schemed Ohio State like nobody I've ever seen. It was so fun to watch from an offensive standpoint. You know, I was watching the game with a couple of Buckeye people and Alabama people, and the Ohio State guy couldn't figure out. He was blaming like most fans, blaming the defense. Look, I told him, I said, this dude is calling the perfect play about every time, and it was fun to watch.
Well, if you're an Alabama fan or SEC fan, but not so much fun if you're Ohio State. And you're right, Shane. I've never seen anything like this offense in my life. I've seen some pretty good ones, but I've never seen. To have play caller on top of what I call the Tuscaloosa triumvirate, three players like that on one team is almost unfair. And the performance last night is one for the ages. If you talk about in the future when people want to see what offensive football was like, that's what you look at. Massively put together. Let's not forget. Let's pay homage to Nick Saban, unquestionably the greatest college football coach of all time. And I'm a Bear Bryant fan, and a guy who not only coaches him up, his program, he's a great manager of the program. He does it with a lot of class. He does it impressively. And to maintain, and Tim Tebow said this last night, not just getting on top, but staying on top. 7 national championships. What a remarkable performance last night by Nick Saban's team and those 3 guys. I mean, it just blows me away. And you're right. Sark is the master. Texas got a good one. Please don't screw it up down there in Texas.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, you see so many guys in his position that move on to the head coaching job. And he's been a head coach twice, so he knows how to manage a team. But you see so many of them go there. Now they're like, okay, I but so much on my plate. I'm going to relinquish my play calling duties to someone else. Well, I doubt he does that, being a former quarterback. But I tell you what, I was so impressed. And like you said, I mean, Mac Jones last night was 36 of 45 for 464 and 5 touchdowns. Majority of that was in the first half. I mean, I used to think I was pretty accurate, buddy. And I don't know what my completion percentage was or whatever. And I've seen some accurate quarterbacks. But he's the all-time greatest in completion percentage in the history of college football. And his accuracy last night just blew me away. Because, buddy, the deep balls and everything, those are easy throws from a quarterback standpoint. Those balls you throw horizontal, those bubbles, how he got it out of his hand real quick. He must have played shortstop at some time in his career.
Good point. Yeah. Good grades. Yeah.
But he got it out quick, but they were all on the money. I mean, think about when he threw those sideways passes to Devontae Smith. If Devontae Smith has to turn just a little bit and break stride, he may not score on some of those. But they were perfectly laid out in front of him where he would continue in stride and just outran and out athlete the other team. But
hey, I can throw Devontae Smith myself. My gosh, what a player he is! My God, he gets open. He gets so open, and he catches. He's got soft hands. He's got yards after the catch. I mean, and let's say one more thing when I think of it, because I'll forget it. The toughness of this team was personified last night. You mentioned Devontae. He went out with 14 catches, whatever it was, or 12 catches, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2.5 quarters. And then you add on the injury to him, and you add on the injury Waddle trying to play. Why he didn't have to play? He wanted to be out there. I know. You
blew me away.
I know, but I love his desire to want to be there. I thought that was really impressive. Mac Jones played with a bad foot the last half. These guys are tough, and that's part of this. You took a beating a few times. Toughness is so critical in that mentality. So, yeah, all the way around, I mean, I can't think of a thing that they did wrong last night.
No, it was an impressive performance by Alabama. It may be Nick's best team he's ever had.
I think it is.
Yeah, the Jalen Waddle, man, when he started limping, buddy, I was like, oh, man. And he kept coming back into the game.
I know.
So, obviously, they knew when he was practicing, he had this little giddy up in his when he was jogging and running.
Right.
So, I'm pretty confident that the medical staff said, look, you can't make it any worse.
Right.
It's just what can you do on half a leg. So it was good to see him catch a few balls. But yeah, this team, I mean, I could not believe the way they played offense. I mean, I can believe it because I think Sarkisian is outstanding. He had the perfect players around him. But think about, the job Mac Jones did. He only played 3-4 games last year after Tua went down. So this has been his first year as a real starter. And honestly, he's got 2 more years of eligibility in college football if he wanted to come back. I don't think he does because his stock is pretty high right now. But 7 national titles for Saban. He's got to be the greatest of all time. And the thing that I like, and I don't want to make this an Alabama show here, but the thing that I love about Alabama, buddy, is they celebrate, but they celebrate the right way. Think about when that kid, number 9, I can't remember his name, the safety got thrown out for targeting.
Yeah. That was too bad. Miami kid. It was terrible. Fort Lauderdale kid, yeah.
Right. But he didn't talk trash. He didn't, make a big scene about getting thrown out. Mm-hmm. He took his punishment and went over there in support of his team the rest of the game. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? You know how some of these kids are. You just don't see that from Alabama, and it's the discipline and it's the structure and it's the quote process that Saban has. But gosh, they got so many NFL players on that team. It was a mismatch from the start.
Mac Jones is I've liked him all the way. In fact, earlier in the season, I talked about how I liked him right up there with Kyle Trask in terms of the guy because of his deep ball ability. But he, as you point out, he probably was more effective on those little short routes. He gets the ball on time to the players at just the right time and place.
Those are the hardest throws. You ask any quarterback, when you have to throw that ball with some velocity and the width of the field sideways, those are hard throws. Mm-hmm. Nat has a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Melvin Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. We're talking about toughness. He says that's what the Florida defense was missing. Look, it may be true, but you can't compare the Alabama defense to the Florida defense.
Well,
we're talking apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I mean, the athletes on that field are different than what we have on the field.
But in retrospect, they didn't play that bad against Alabama. They played them better than anybody else did.
Right.
Night, what you're playing against, to lose one score, Todd Grantham want to run him out of town on a rail. How about Kerry Coombs? Most people don't even know who he is. I mean, his defense got sliced and diced last night, and as did everybody else. Grantham played them better than anybody did.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Shaun Wade, number 24 for Ohio State, is projected to be a first-round corner taken, and he got slaughtered the entire night. Yeah. So that's why I try to tell people that it's hard to play defense now, but when you have a guy at the quarterback position that is that accurate, understands the system, you got a guy calling plays, they're going to move the ball up and down the field on you. And, yes, we played well. We played them extremely well this year. I will say this. I think one of the differences in this national championship game is Saban and his staff had many more days to prepare than they did for the Florida Gators. But yeah, we played them very well. Let me ask you this, buddy, because I don't know if they said anything before I went to bed. Devontae Smith went in for x-rays. Initially, I thought that he had dislocation. Did they say he broke anything?
I never heard, and I'm with you. I thought he dislocated his thumb, the way they grabbed it like that. Looked like they were trying to put it back in place on the sideline, from what I could see. And then, but I started thinking about that's a serious injury to a guy who's going to make millions with his hands. I mean,
yeah, but if he just broke a couple fingers or something, he'll go to the best hand specialist.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure he get it done. I felt bad for Trey Sermon. Goes out the first series. He had a severe because there was Dr.
Broken
Farmer
collarbone, I think, right?
No, it's some because usually when you break your collarbone or separate, you don't go immediately to the hospital. They took him to the hospital. It was like some injury that has something to do with an artery up in here.
Really?
So it was like, I think he had emergency surgery. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. We don't know all that stuff yet.
Yeah. Frank has a Facebook Live question brought to you by Meldon Law here from the Crime Prevention Studios. Once we get the facility, will we be finally be in the same level to recruit versus Bama and Clemson? We'll be in the same level, but we got to win games, and but that will definitely help. Like I said, we're the only major player in college football that doesn't have that facility, but it's being built. We got about 2 years away, and we'll be okay. I've talked about that for many years.
And you have talked about it with me for over a year, and you're right, and it is going to be a thing. I think you have to, and we can assess now if you want to, but assess where Florida is, and the season it was, and what you got changes coming about. I'm on record as I would say this. I'm not too crazy about the buzzkill the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I've said it, written it, and they need to come together, and I think you're doing that. Mullen looked like more refreshed last night on TV. This whole NCAA probation show cause deal, I won't go into a litany of things, but when you lose 3 in a row, and really heartbreaking losses, of all those losses, the LSU game was the one that really should never have happened. And then you come down to the end, you know what happened. Great effort against Alabama. And then, of course, people opted out and embarrassment at the end because of what happened against a really good Oklahoma team, which, as you pointed out, is going to be ranked really high next year. So I think Florida, it was a progressive season. You got the goal you wanted with beating Georgia. You got great play out of your quarterback position that you didn't expect 2 years ago. Now we're going to see what's going to happen. Coaching changes are in the wind. We still haven't heard that details. I'll let you go ahead and outline what you want to talk about. But now we're going to see, what's going to happen this spring. Maybe get a spring. But having said that, I want to mention this is the greatest performance of an offense in the absolute worst season in the history of college football, the pandemic. One thing I respect and admire with Alabama and Nick Saban is how he managed this whole thing. He himself had COVID. His team, through this deal, was remarkable. And I think I give him the highest commendation for what he did as a coach, and he took care of his players. So, yeah, it was, as Charles Dickens says, the best of times and worst of times. It was a great performance and effort in a terrible time.
No question about it. We got a couple of Facebook Lives. Jeff says here, tired of talent bashing. We get our share. Just happen to be thin in spots this year. Coach me up. Look, we do have some good players, but we ain't got the players that those two teams had on the field last night. Scott says, do you think we will get Eric Gilbert, the kid that transferred from LSU?
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Word out there is that he is definitely interested. I think with Tim Brewster, we saw what Pitts did this year. That obviously will help. We got a text here on the Titan Mark text line. It says, "Good morning, Shane. Quick observations from last night. One, you joked that JC could coach Bama's talent, but he needs to call Mac Jones and coach him up on sliding. That boy has an ugly dismount."
Yeah. If that's the best you got to criticize him for, I mean.
He said Dolphins will probably use the third pick for an O lineman, but it'd be mighty tempting to want to take Devontae Smith and watch him run all over Hard Rock Stadium on Sundays. I tell you what, I'm going to take a dude that scores touchdowns. I would take him. Third, Sark called a heck of a game. He had Smith looking like that kid on Friday nights that just takes over a game with raw talent and speed. Shouldn't look that easy in a national championship game. Thanks for the text, Ryan. That's true. I mean, buddy, it's amazing. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I want to say Devontae had 11 catches in the first half, had more yards himself than the entire Ohio State offense in the first half. It's almost like, okay, Ohio State, this kid won the Heisman Trophy.
No.
Did y'all not watch any tape on him?
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's right. And, I've seen guys ask Coach Spurrier about this. He lost to Miami after winning the Heisman. And a lot of times the guy who wins the Heisman doesn't play well the next game. Didn't bother Devontae Smith one bit. And the performance, I don't know if we've seen the best of him yet. I mean, he is going to be something special. I love the way he plays the game. I just wanted to say that we talk about Alabama, and I mentioned that Tim Tebow said it's one thing to win and go on top, but it's really hard to stay on top. With the new offensive coordinator, they can't be as good as they were this year. There's no way, because Stark coached them up. Whoever they get, I don't care. The word is Bill O'Brien, maybe. I don't know what you think of O'Brien. He was, coached obviously at Houston, Penn State. But Sark, like you said, he just needs to call plays and do what he does. And I think that's the thing, Shane, this. There's a big difference in being the head coach and the play caller. It's a lot more responsibility, and the head coach doesn't do as much coaching as the head in terms of his hands-on stuff. And Coach Spurrier will tell you that.
Yeah, well, Coach Spurrier was a play caller, but he wanted to stay involved in the offense because he was an offensive guy, and I'm sure Sark will do the same. And Sark was a head coach that people aren't familiar with. He was a coach at the University of Washington and at USC. Had some issues, lost his job. Saban gave him a chance to get his life back together, and he's a heck of a coach. So I'm pretty sure that he's gonna. I don't know who all he's hired, but I am pretty sure he will be calling plays.
What do you heard about Charlie Strong being up there? Here's a story I heard that he really likes being in Tuscaloosa, that he lives in an apartment on campus owned by Nick Saban, that he walks to work, that he loves it, and he, and some people say, well, maybe he's going to be the next defensive coordinator. Who knows? But depending on what happened to Golden. But also hear that Urban, if he does go to Jacksonville, and I have no idea that there's been some contact with Charlie about going to Jacksonville. What have you heard, Shane?
I've heard nothing. I don't. I'm sure Charlie, because he's an analyst, and once you've been coaching for all your life, what people don't understand is if an analyst cannot do any coaching, they can sit in meetings, and then they have to stay. I don't want to say on the perimeter of the practice field, but you can't coach. So if Charlie sees a defensive back or a linebacker make a mistake, or from a technique standpoint, he can't go up to that kid and say you should be doing that. He can take notes and then talk about it in the classroom, but you can't do coaching on the field.
Wait a minute, what was Butch Jones doing there last night on the sideline?
No. Well, you can be on the sideline. But you see, Butch Jones never has a headset on.
Well, he's talking to players.
You can talk to players. I'm just saying during a practice, you can't actually be coaching.
I know, but coaching.
I know. I mean, believe me, they tweak the rules. But yeah, Butch Jones will be the next head coach at Arkansas State. But back to Charlie, I haven't heard anything. And again, you got to remember, he's still being paid a lot of money, I think, from Texas and South Florida. And so if he takes – usually what happens if you take a job then they pay the difference. And he may just enjoy not having much pressure right now coaching, and he's still collecting a big check from those schools.
I still want to know what happened, because at one point he had allegedly, I don't have this information, but I'm told by other people who know that Mullen talked to him and then tried to get him as an analyst at Florida. And then the next thing you know, he's going to Tuscaloosa. So I'm not
Well,
sure.
I know what happened there.
Okay.
So different schools do different ways with their analysts. And this happens everywhere. I know at Florida. So, for example, I'm an offensive guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if Mullen wanted me to be an analyst, I'm not going to work with the offense. I'm going to work with the defense.
Yeah, he wanted Charlie to be there.
So Charlie would have been working with the offense to say, okay, what is a defensive guy going to try to do to our offense?
Scouting his offense, basically, is what he's doing. I mean,
what's that?
It's kind of scouting the offense.
It's a way to self-scout. A lot of teams do it. It just depends on what your philosophy is as a head coach. So that's what happens. Buddy, I want to bring up Joel Klatt on Twitter. Got his way too early top 10 for next year.
Can't wait to hear this.
I'm going to run this down and see what our
Florida in there?
No. Number 1, your Georgia Bulldogs. 2, Alabama.
I don't get that.
3, Oklahoma. 4, Ohio State. 5, Clemson. 6, Iowa State. 7, Indiana. 8, Miami. 9, North Carolina. Number 10, Notre Dame. No Florida Gators in the preseason top 10. And Joel Klatt's way too early top 10.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, way too early. It's fun to do that. And I mean, we don't all move those around. I ain't putting the Georgia Bulldogs up there until they find out how to coach quarterbacks.
Yeah. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. January is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with Buddy Martin here on the Titan Memorial Hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be joining the second portion of the program with Chris Harry talking Gator hoops. Buddy, the Gators picked up a big defensive tackle, about 320-pounder from Penn State, which definitely will help because I've been saying we need big bodies up front. I'm trying to think. We had a couple guys before the Cotton Bowl going the portal. Maybe it was after. I think James Houston, Jacob Finn, the starting punter, went into the transfer portal yesterday. Yeah. Any idea why our punters transfer?
No, I don't. I was going to ask you the same question. I guess we have an Aussie kicking next year, which everybody seems to do. I don't know the story there. I was a little surprised at that, but you never know. Maybe he got sideways with the special team. I don't know. I thought Florida's kicking was really good this year, and I think it's something we take it for granted. So, I don't know the story there. There's a lot I don't know. In fact, most stuff I don't know. But I think it'll be, look, I'm going to make a prediction without knowing anything. Florida will pick up 2, maybe 3 people out of the portal who will make a difference because this is Dan Mullen's style. He's not a great recruiter. He's a very good recruiter, but he knows how to identify talent. And apparently knows how to go get them and get them coached up, get them here and coach them. So, I think there's going to be some changes, and they need some. We'll see what they're going to look like and maybe have a spring practice for a change. But I don't know much about that situation, though, in terms of the punter and Finn.
Yeah. Buddy, there was a lot of speculation about Coach Mullen interviewing for the Falcons, the Jets. That's kind of died down the last week or so. Heard anything else about that?
Well, someone reported, and I forget, I hate doing this, that there was no Jets interview that came from the Jets. So that might have been a smokescreen created by the agent. I don't know. It seems like, again, trying to read the tea leaves, watching Mullen last night, hearing him talk about his team with Tebow, he seems to be a little calmer. He seems like more like the old Dan Mullen. He's had a tough year, really tough year. And it seems to me, there's no evidence right now that anybody is offering him a job in the National Football League. As far as I'm concerned, he's the coach. He's going to be here. He has to make some staff changes, and then he's got to get his players coached up.
Yeah, I think we're going to – I agree with you that we're going to get some more transfer portal guys. I think we need them. I think it's –
Where do you see the need, Shane, mostly?
Say that again?
Where do you see that need mostly?
Well, I think it's one of those best. I mean, if there's a guy in the transfer portal that can play and make your team better,
right,
you have to go get them.
Yeah.
And, it's, again, the transfer portal, I forgot, somebody told me yesterday, there's, 300-400 kids in there.
Yeah.
And, what's crazy about that is, buddy, and I understand kids want to go play and they deserve a chance to go play. But, when you give up a scholarship to go into the transfer portal, there's no guarantee that another university or college is going to give you a scholarship.
True.
So that's my only concern is sometimes you have to really evaluate, okay, if I'm not getting the playing time at school X, what are the odds of another school giving me an opportunity? And that's what I always said to you about Kyle Trask, because I love Kyle and he stuck it out and the story we all know.
Yeah.
But I think Kyle had to sit in the back of his head, okay, if I enter that transfer portal, do I have any other school that's going to give me a scholarship because I wasn't highly recruited out of high school? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he knew I have an opportunity. I may never play here, but I have an opportunity to have my school paid for at a tremendous university, and I can graduate from the University of Florida.
Yeah, so, and he wanted to be a Gator. Someone told me, I forget who it was, might have been Lee McGriff, a long time ago. He wants to be a Gator. He wanted to be here. He wanted to play here. And even when he wasn't going to play, he wanted to be here. He wanted to graduate from Florida. So that desire to want to be somewhere, I think that's what Mullen's biggest strength was when he came here. He really wanted to be the coach at Florida. And I think that's what might have disillusioned a couple of people in recent weeks when the so-called all-season negotiations started, as every coach does these days. Like, what's my coach doing? I thought he wanted to be at Florida, not to coach the Falcons or the Jets or the Jags, whatever. And and I know that's the business side of the game that people don't understand sometimes. But I think there is that sort of, I don't want to call it betrayal of trust, but it's like disappointment. Like, wait, he's our guy. He was wanting to be here. We're building something. When you're selling that you're building something, and then one day, next thing you know, like, well, maybe the grass is greener over here. It does cause fans to get upset.
Yeah, we got a couple of texts on the Titanmar text line or Facebook Live, Melton Law. The Rambo wide receiver from Oklahoma would be a nice addition. There's no question. He's a phenomenal player. I don't know why he left Oklahoma. I don't know why Trey Sermon left Oklahoma. Terry says there are thousands of players in the portal. Yeah, not hundreds, thousands.
No.
He's correct.
No.
And then Kyle on Facebook says Brad Culpepper's son, who I think went to Penn State.
Really?
And I'm not sure if at one time he was a tight end. I'm not sure if he grew into a defensive lineman. But again, I don't know if he played at all at Penn State.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Mullen and his staff are interested in him.
Yeah.
So
they don't know every player, everything, that's for sure. So,
and you got to remember, I don't know how many scholarships we have available to offer these kids, but I think we will be very, very active in the transfer portal for sure. Buddy, you want to hear about the This Day in Sports at Comfort Temp?
I do.
Is our business.
I do.
Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased at $199 value. Our service department's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know what happened back in 1958 in college football, buddy?
Let's see. That was
who were you covering in 1958?
I was in college, so I wasn't covering anything.
Well,
I'll tell you what Florida was doing. I don't tell you that, but no, Chinese Bandits, LSU was that was the next year, 59.
The Chinese Bandits. No, the NCAA in 1958 added the 2-point conversion.
Okay,
to college football.
Yeah. Got it from the AFL, no, that AFL wasn't born. See, the AFL started before then, so I don't know. Yeah, that was a good.
AFL had the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they brought that to us. But I think it's. I love the 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, it cost Coach Spurrier a lot because if you know the story of the Missouri game, I'll tell you sometime when they played Missouri and they were down 20-0, and they scored three times in the fourth quarter. Spurrier scored, and each time they went for 2. And they lost 20-18. So that was the 2-point conversion of that year, which would be 65. That was how it played in the Florida situation. It's good.
All right, buddy. Well, we've run out of time. It's time to talk hoops
Tonight
with
on my
Chris
show.
Harry.
Now you're going to be on my show tonight. We're going to talk about this top 10 again, and we'll have a surprise guest or two. We'll see who else we got. But look forward to tonight at 9:00. Shane, having you on. Thanks very much. Have a great day, and I congratulate all Alabama fans. Remarkable performance, great coaching job, great team, especially a great offensive lineup, and those three players in Sark. Really remarkable.
Yep, no doubt about it. That's Buddy Martin. You can follow him on Twitter at Buddy Show and check him out, the Buddy Martin Show, Monday through Friday, about 9:00 on Facebook Live. All right, buddy, we'll see you tonight,
Thank you,
man.
Shane. See you.
At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you, but Center State Bank, member FDIC. You're going to take our first time out of the pro and come back. We're going to be joined by FloridaGators.com senior writer Chris Harry talking Gator hoops. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com, and click the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Celebration Points, where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Prime, and Pearl, opening soon, Dave & Buster's, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by senior writer from FloridaGators.com, Mr. Chris Harry, who I know will be hanging out at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. He'll have a free tab, I'm sure. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
There are no free tabs at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
That is true. That is so true. Chris, first of all, before we hop into basketball, obviously you cover all sports. Well, give me your thoughts of what you saw last night with the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, robotic. It just seems like they're reminds me of the Rocky movie where you hit the guy and he goes, look, he bleeds. He's not a machine, except you never do that to them. At least not this team this year. It didn't matter who was playing. They were that good. It makes you think, if you're an NFL evaluator, you're trying to evaluate Mac Jones. Is Mac Jones a franchise type quarterback, or do you just have franchise players at every position around him? Devontae Smith, obviously spectacular. I go back to this one simple little anecdote. Probably means nothing, but I remember I was watching an Alabama game this year, and they were talking about how Nick Saban was real irritated with his kicking game last year. We said we have to fix the kicking game, and I think he ended up getting the kicker, and the kicker was something like 98 for 98 on his kicks this year. Most of them obviously extra points, but I think he was 13 of 13 on field goals. I think he made one last night. I don't know if he missed last night. I didn't watch the whole game, but it's where is the weakness in the team? How do you beat that team? But my goodness gracious, that was an impressive performance. And do you remember an era of football? Maybe Nebraska for those 2 years, but this has been a lot longer than 2 years that Alabama has been doing stuff like this. But I do think they were talking last night. Was it LSU's offense better than this offense? I don't know about that.
No, this offense is better. It's more balanced, and it's the best I've ever seen. And yeah, Mac has great players around him, got a great offensive line. But let me tell you something: his accuracy is like no other. And I was telling Buddy, deep balls, I don't want to say they're easy to throw, but when you throw those bubbles sideways, those wide receiver screens, and you are pinpoint accurate on those where the receiver doesn't break stride, that's unbelievable. And he didn't throw one of those balls as quickly as he gets it out where the guy had to turn and break stride.
Those guys catching in full spot. They got their full momentum, read their blocks, and it's 7-8 yards every time.
That is a harder throw than 35 yards down the field. That is so much harder. I want to read you this stat before we get to basketball. I saw this last night. I was on Twitter. There have been 21 CFP games, college football playoff games. 17 have been won by Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State. Expanding the playoff, which everyone's a fan of, will not give us more title contenders, but it might be necessary to create more excitement among the fan base. How about that? 17 of the 21 have been won by those three teams.
How many of them are Alabama?
Well, they didn't. Yeah, a lot. They didn't put the stat in there, but a lot.
I bet it may be more than half of those 17, right? It has to be.
Yeah. Chris, let's talk hoops. Obviously, Florida started in the SEC 2-0. Then they lose at Alabama, which Alabama's, I think, first place in the league right now.
They are.
And then they come home, lost to a Kentucky team that I didn't think was very good, but obviously they're getting a little bit better. Just give me your thoughts on what happened against Kentucky.
Kentucky is good. I mean, they're always going to be. I mean, their talent is never going to be something that you dispute. It's whether or not it's how quickly they mesh, and obviously they didn't mesh very well early in the season. They certainly meshed to the Gators' expense the other day, and certainly Florida helped them. They were more physical. I mean, I'm taking the Kentucky game and rolling into the Alabama game, because what Florida did in this first two games against Vanderbilt and against LSU, and remember this Vanderbilt team that was tied with Kentucky at Rupp Arena until the last minute, and Kentucky made a 3-point shot to win the game down the stretch. So, what I saw was a team that was much more physical than Florida, that really beat them up. I saw, I mean, you're not gonna. I'll just go to these stats here. I mean, going into that game, you had Trey Mann was your leading scorer, Colin Castleton, then Scotty Lewis. I mean, they were averaging collectively 39 points per game. Against Alabama, they went 6 for 21. They had 15 points. I mean, you're not going to win. Game before that, the Alabama game, Scotty Lewis had 2 points in whatever it was, 20 minutes. He had 2 points against Kentucky in 32 minutes, I believe. He's 2 for 10 against those two teams. You're not going to win when your best players aren't matching the productivity of the best players on the other team. Some more numbers here. Florida's passing in the SEC. Okay, remember, we're taking what they did the first 4 games versus the 4 games in conference play. Florida's passing. They're assisting on 42% of their shots, okay, or of made baskets. That's the lowest in the league. Their ball movement needs to be better in league play. Free throw percentage in SEC play, 68%. They were shooting 75% in non-conference play. Make your damn free throws. Florida's opponents, on the other hand, in SEC play, get this, Shane, they're shooting 83.5%. So there's your discrepancy, 83.5 to 68. Obviously, there's nothing Florida can do about that other than not fouling as much as they have been fouling. And to also your point, the Florida's opponents, the last have a record of what am I looking at right here? Winning percentage of the opponents of their last 3 games. The last 3, LSU, Kentucky, Alabama, those teams are 10-1 combined in SEC play. So they played some hard games. That's not an excuse. They got to be a lot better. Starting tonight against your Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is coming in there. Their team their MO is always play hard. They're not a great team by any stretch of the imagination. They got one guy that I'm going to point out right now named Romello White. He's a transfer from Arizona State. He's like 6'8", 235. He's very, very physical. He had 20-some double-doubles during his career with the Sun Devils. I think he's number 2 all-time for that program in field goal percentage. He's an animal inside, and he's the kind of player last couple games that we've seen could give Florida some problems.
We've got a couple of Facebook Lives here brought to you by Metal Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. John says, I think Shane said we would rout Kentucky. I did, John. Don't listen to me. I don't. that was my homer pick. Then Chad says the discrepancy is in coaching. Mike White needs to go. Here's what people need to realize. I know. I mean, it's the same. It doesn't matter what sport it is, what fan base it is. First of all, we sit at 2-2, correct, in the SEC.
Yeah.
A lot of ball still to be played.
Mm-hmm.
People, we're playing without the preseason SEC Player of the Year, and we ain't going to have him this year. But as you said, for us to win, you got to make shots. And when your best players, Trey Mann and Scotty Lewis, don't make shots, we ain't going to win.
No. And Trey Mann did not react well to Kentucky. Kentucky had him as their guy. We're gonna X this guy because when he got the ball at the top on ball screens, they were blitzing him, double team. He didn't react well to it. He needs to react better to that. And some of that coaching, yeah. But I'm at practice. I know what he's coached to do. He didn't do it. These people realize that Mike White's won 60% of his Southeastern Conference games. He and John Calipari would be the only coaches to be in the SEC tournament, or excuse me, the NCAA tournament the last few years when it was being contested. It's draining.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because here's my thing, and agree or disagree with me, and my Gator friends get so mad at me, and I say it on the air, whether it's this show or another show. Florida is not a blue blood in basketball, okay? And Billy spoiled us a little bit with that 2-year run.
A little bit. Yeah.
So, in the 04s, it just kind of all came together those 2 years. They played extremely well together. You'll never see that happen here again, in my opinion. Can we win another national title in basketball? I don't know if we can or not, but I try to tell people we aren't going to get the top-notch players in basketball. Now, we got Trey Mann and Scotty Lewis. Phenomenal job getting them here. But if I'm a top-notch basketball player, I'm looking at Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, some of those teams. Am I crazy thinking that way?
No, the 04s that you just referenced, those weren't top-notch basketball players. The only McDonald's All-American on that team was Corey Brewer.
Right.
I mean, and they ended up being three lottery picks. There not a lot of lottery picks come to Florida. And you mentioned you don't think you ever see it happen again. How many times in the rest of eternity in college basketball is a team going to win a national championship and return for all 5 of its players? Well, I don't think it'll ever happen again.
No, it won't.
At least one of them is going to. Joakim Noah was going to be the first pick in the draft and came back. So just because he was so close to those guys. And so that was nobody loved Billy Donovan and respects Billy Donovan more than I do. But can you imagine if Twitter was around when Billy Donovan took that trash heap of a program at the time that he picked it up? Some of those guys he had playing in his first couple years. And then within 4 years, I flipped everything recruiting, went to a national championship game, lost to Michigan State, but what a run! And next 5 years couldn't get out of the first weekend of the tournament. Imagine what Twitter would have done to him back then.
No doubt. Chad on Facebook Live says, now that KJ is out, Mike White's best players are transfers. That's a player development problem for White. Now, I'm going to let you answer that. My question is, if you watch college basketball, pretty much every team is made up of transfers.
Well, there's 3 on Ole Miss tonight. I mean, Kentucky had 2, at least 2 the other day in the starting lineup, I believe. That is college basketball nowadays, and it will be Florida basketball because, I mean, that's how you get guys who are already, and I don't know what he's talking about, the best players. Anthony DeRugia has played very well The best players on the team are Trey Mann and Scotty Lewis. Okay, so and they're not transfers. They're the best.
And Keontae was one of Mike. Wasn't Keontae Mike White's recruit?
Mike, of course, he was Mike White's recruit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and I mean, Colin Castleton, of course, is a transfer. But who was the gentleman who asked that question?
Chad,
get used to transfers coming here, because that's going to be a recruiting philosophy, and not just for Florida. It's going to be a recruiting philosophy for a lot of schools as the NCAA starts to head in that direction and try to give some players some more freedom of choice when it comes to that stuff too, as things change in the landscape of the.
And Jeffrey asked, what happened to playing fast and all the fast breaks?
Well, you got to make shots to set up the prep. And then all that comes into one. You also have to get some stops, okay, to set up your press. And like you said, you got to make them on the other end. And if you're not stopping them on defense, then you can't grab rebounds, bust out, and get into transition. And certainly they were doing that the first couple games in the Southeastern Conference, but. You shoot 41% against Alabama. No, that's not going to be good enough. And hell, what was it the other day? 35% against Kentucky. No, you're not going to be able to play very fast that way.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. Speaking with Chris Harry, you can follow him on Twitter at GatorsChris. The game tonight against Ole Miss. Okay, Ole Miss, I watched them beat Auburn about a week ago, and then they looked horrible against LSU, which LSU can make you look bad now. Right. They can score. Mm-hmm. What do you see happening tonight? What kind of team is Ole Miss bringing in here?
I mean, it's a team. Just candidly, Florida's got to win. You got to beat Ole Miss at home. I mean, you really do. I mean, Devontae Shuler is probably their best player. He's off to a really difficult start. I think he's 1 for 16 from 3 in SEC play, and he's a guy who was from the same school that Keontae went to up in Virginia. I always get this place, Oak Hill Academy. He's a senior, 1,000-point scorer. He's not a great player by any stretch of the imagination. But Ole Miss, like I said, their MO is playing hard. Romello White could be a problem for them down low. They went to Oxford last year. Now remember Breon Tyree last year.
Yeah,
he was the leading scorer in the conference. He's obviously gone. He was like close to, I won't say he was an 1,800-point scorer there. He's gone. So this is a game Florida just needs to play better across the board. They need Trey Mann to play better, and they certainly need Scotty Lewis to get out of whatever kind of funk he's in. He thrives off defense. Okay, he thrives off energy. He hasn't got that mojo going that he certainly had at the beginning of the season when Keontae got hurt. It was Scotty who stepped up and kind of provided the big plays for the team. We haven't seen that out of him the last couple of days. Certainly foul trouble hurt him in Alabama, and the Kentucky game he was totally taken out of his game by the array of defenders that were sent at him. And he needs to break through that. He's a guy who holds himself really accountable and gets frustrated, and I think some of that's got to be tamped down a little bit with him.
Our man Chad here, obviously he's a basketball guy. Chad wants to know, why can we not develop a big man? Payne still looks completely lost.
Well, Omar is a guy who he had some difficult possessions the other day, and he had some difficult possessions against Alabama. I get frustrated watching him because sometimes he just doesn't catch the ball. I go back. He had that Auburn game last year, and everyone thought so much of him. I think in some ways, you go 9 for 9 from the floor with 11 rebounds. I think like he did in that big Auburn blowout win last year when they were 4th ranked in the country. I think a lot of fans thought he had it all figured out. I think Omar thought he had it all figured out too. And then I fast forward to the Kentucky game, which ended up being the last game of the season last year when Florida blew the 18-point lead with inside 12 minutes. Omar was just destroyed down low by Kentucky, an inability to box out and some kind of things. And you need him to just grow from some of these things. And he's just, his consistency hasn't been there. The coaches would surely point some fingers at themselves for not being able to get the most out of him. But Omar's deal is, you've seen now what Colin Castleton done. Colin Castleton is a pretty good player. He's shown so far. He's had his moments for the Gators. he works harder than Omar Payne does, frankly. And Omar is seeing that a little bit. Maybe Omar needs to start emulating the way Colin Castleton comes to work every day.
Who right now is the best team in the SEC?
Right now, the best team in the SEC. I know what Alabama did going to Tennessee. I still think Tennessee will be there at the end. I think Kentucky's obviously going to be there at the end. I think they're going to figure some stuff out, obviously. But Alabama's obviously really, really pleasant to the eye to watch them get up and down, the way they play hard and what have you. So also Auburn got that point guard back. And he's a good little player. Did you see him the other day? Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't shoot the ball very well, but he comes in his first game. He's been practicing with them, but NCAA finally rules him eligible. I think he had 25, and I think he had a double-double almost, maybe 11 assists or something like that. Keep an eye on them trending upward next year.
Gonzaga is not going to lose. I don't know if I've ever seen a basketball team like them in college.
Any weaknesses on that team?
Zero.
We say they're not going to lose. We've said that before. There's no way. I love the fact that Mark Few he'll play anybody, anywhere, at any time. He's just jumping all around, just playing as good a teams as he can, because he's not going to get tested in that league, obviously. No. That's why I say I don't think they're going to lose. They're going to get to the tournament. They're going to be undefeated, and I still think. There is no weakness, and I've never seen a more skilled offensive basketball team than that team. I mean, they're so good. That point guard reminds me of Russell Westbrook, a young Russell Westbrook. The way he
probably shoots it better than Russell though.
Every game, or what's that?
I think he shoots it better than Russell Westbrook.
Probably does, but Russell Westbrook has some seasons where he shot the ball. I just know they scored 98 points on Virginia. That's it.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Chris, before we let you go, and nobody knows about this, but Bradley Beal is just having a phenomenal year. I mean, they've only played X amount of games in the NBA, but gosh, he scored 60 a couple weeks ago. I think he had about 35 the other
41 night. 41. Then he had 101 points in 2 games, and they lost both.
Yeah, just an unbelievable year. Nobody hears about him because he plays for the stinking Wizards.
Yes, I know. He had 34 last night in a win in a game where Westbrook didn't play, and their starting center just blew out his knee. So I don't know what's going to happen with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal went to management early last year, and each of the last 2 offseasons said, I want to be a part of this. He loves living. I'm in Washington now. He loves living here. I've talked to him since he's been up here, obviously. They want to continue on with him. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just he's one of the 10 best players in the NBA right now, and he is the prime of his career is going to waste. What do you do with him? If you're the Wizards, you trade him. There's no way you can get value for him, but maybe you just blow it all up and see what you can get draft pick wise. But maybe Brad Beal does deserve a little bit better than he's getting right now.
No doubt. Well, Chris, we appreciate you joining the program. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you, Shane.
Chris Harry, join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take our final time out. We come back, we'll wrap up this Tuesday edition. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios in this third Tuesday edition. I want to thank Buddy Martin. You can check him out on the Buddy Martin Show on Facebook Live, and also Chris Harry. Follow him on Twitter at GatorsChris and check him out on FloridaGators.com. Hey, make sure you watch and like us on Facebook and YouTube. You can check us out live there. Also on all different kinds of podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Podbean. Follow us and like us, folks. And tomorrow, we got JC, but we got Coach Ron Zook joining the program. The Zooker will be right here in the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.